Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Now we take in our discussion essay 520 which is revised on 1/4/2010. What the name of the essay? Analytical procedure. What do we understand? What do we understand by analytical procedures? Analytical procedure means any information evaluation of those information, those financial information with the financial or non-financial data. For example, if there is a sales of the product X, Y and Z, then we analyze our quantity of last year's sales with this year's sale, and also we compare the amount of sales of last year with this year. So this essay says that the financial information is compared with financial or non-financial information through the analysis. I tell you that this procedure is applied as further audit procedure. Why I say this? Because after applying all the procedures, auditor obtains sufficient and appropriate evidences, then finally at any assertion level, at any account balance level, if auditor find that it is required to investigate further or to apply additional procedure at that assertion level, then only auditor applied the analytical procedures. Okay, so I tell you that this is the procedure which is applied as further audit procedure. Okay, then there is a difference between substantive analytical procedure and analytical procedure. Analytical procedure is applied as further audit procedure, and substantive analytical procedure is applied as risk assessment procedure. Okay, very small difference, but more or less techniques are same. For example, ratios we calculate, budgets we prepare for analyzing those amounts and those account balances. Okay, now nature where we apply and how we apply the analytical procedure. We compare this entity's information with this entity's previous year's information or prior period's information, or we compare this entity's financial information with the other entity's financial information, or we compare this entity information with the similar industry information. If we can say my comparison with me, my comparison with you, my comparison with all. That is entities comparison with its financial information of previous year, entities comparison with other entities information, and entities comparison with industry as a whole. Okay. So what is the audit procedures we apply here? Determine the suitability. There is 4 steps, most important question for exam point of view. First is determine the suitability of the particular substantive procedure. Then evaluate the reliability of the information available. Develop an expectation of recorded amounts and determine the differences of actual amount with expected amount. Okay, first, determine suitability of the particular substantive procedure. Where we apply the substantive procedure? Where the large volume of transaction, tending to be predictable over time. For example, If there is we tell about an hotel where the we are not cross check each and every rent amount. What we do here, we calculate number of room multiplied by tariff rate multiplied by occupancy ratio, and we get an amount. This is the cross check of the rent amount by analytical procedure. One more example we take here: wages and salaries of employees. Number of employees multiplied by average salary per month multiplied by number of month, so that we get an idea of average salary of the employees, and then we check the salary with the actual figure. If there is big deviations, then you investigate further or you inquire from the management. Okay, then where we have how we determine the suitability of this procedure is influenced by nature of assertion, what account balance we want to cross check here, and effectiveness of this procedure for identification and assessing the risk of material misstatement. Okay, then at a different type of account balance level, auditor applied different type of analytical procedure, where he apply ratio analysis, where he apply budgets. It's totally depend on auditor's own judgment. Okay, auditor's own professional judgment. Then in some cases, unsophisticated predictive model may be useful. For example, we can use budgets for forecasting the amount. Then combination of test of detail and substantive analytical procedure is the best effective way of obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. I already discussed this point in SA 330. Combination of test of detail and substantive analytical procedure is the most effective procedure for obtaining the sufficient appropriate audit evidences. Okay, this is the determining suitability of this procedure. Then evaluation of the reliability of the information available. It depends on such factors. First is sources. If you obtain the data from independent source, then it is more reliable. We know that if we in SA 500, when we talk about the obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence, there also a point of reliability. But in exam, if they ask about the reliability, then they specifically write there as per SA 520. Okay, so I don't think there is any confusion. So evaluation of reliability of information available is depend on the sources, comparability, nature and relevance, control over the preparation of information. First is sources. If we take data from independent sources, then it is more reliable. For example, if you search the turnover of the Reliance Industries at Google and you ask from the employees about the turnover, then it may be possible the employee sees you uh, uh, the manipulated data and says you the manipulated cells or manipulated figures, but Google is provide you the exact information, so you can cross check by the independent sources. Okay, then comparability, that is, if you expect any amount by your analysis process and then you check this amount from the actual figure, it is comparable or not. You compare with your similar industry, other entity, prior periods. This is the comparison. If the figure is not comparable, then analysis is more difficult. Then nature and relevance. nature and relevance been same that if you checking the goals of the industry, then it is not more relevant for you. But if you see the budgets and forecast of the entity, then it is more relevant for you, because financial informations give you more sufficient appropriate audit evidence rather than non-financial information here. Okay, then control over the preparation of the information. Obviously, there is a completeness, accuracy, and comparability, validity of the data. Control over the preparation of the information. If information is prepared by, there is no segregation of duty. Information is prepared by the accountant, and also sales and purchases done by the accountant, the purchase order is checked by the accountant, each and every task is done by the same person, then the control is weak. So we can say the suitability of analytical procedures is more, where the control is strong. Okay, then develop expectations of the recorded amounts. If we talk about development of an expectation, when as an auditor we analyze the figure, we see the industry data, we see the similar entity data, and we predict any amount, and this amount then finally determine the difference of the actual amount with expected, and the amount is much more different from the predicted amount, from the expected amount, then you investigate further. Okay, so this is about the audit procedures. Determination of suitability of particular information, evaluate reliability, develop an expectation, then determine the difference between the actual and expected amount. Okay, then objective of analytical procedure is to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Okay, and design and perform the near the end of the audit that assist in forming an overall conclusion. I already says that all other procedures, all other method of obtaining the evidences is already applied by the auditor, and when the auditor find that at any assertion level it is required to apply the further audit procedure, then before conclusion, auditor at the end of the audit, before conclusion, auditor apply the analytical procedures. Okay, then identify the fluctuations. If there is any fluctuations, inconsistencies, for example, yesterday I start a company name as buy company, and my company's turnover is more than 2 times more than the Tata Industries. Is it a reliable figure? Is it the reliable ratio? I started a company yesterday and my turnover ratio is more than the Tata Industry. Just give a inconsistency or fluctuations, just give an idea to the auditor that there is any inconsistency, and auditor apply further audit procedure, auditor apply additional audit procedure, auditor inquire from the management, then auditor found that there is the overstatement of the sales figure, understatement of the expenses, so the gross profit or net profit is show more. So it is very helpful for auditor to analyze any figure at assertion level, any account balance level, any disclosure, any particular amount. Okay, this is all about SF 520. We take a revision. First, SF 520 revised on 1/4/2010, analytical procedure. Okay, meaning is evaluation of financial information through analysis of relationship among financial and non-financial data. Nature is comparison of the entity's information with prior periods of that entity, other entity, comparison with other entity, comparison with similar industry. Then audit procedures determine suitability of the particular substantive procedure when large volume of transaction tending to be predictable over time, then it is very helpful. For example, hotel room rents and wages of the salary of the employees. I already told now, hotel room rent is tariff amount, occupancy ratio and multiplied by number of rooms, and wages and salary, number of employees multiplied by wages per month multiplied by number of months he worked. Okay, it influences by the nature and effectiveness of the effectiveness to identify the risk of material misstatement. Obviously, nature of the assertion is important here to determine what analytical procedure should be adopted, and effectiveness of identify the risk of material misstatement. We applied the audit procedures so we can identify the material misstatement. Okay, so it influenced by this, and different type of the analytical procedures provide the different level of assurance. This is the auditor's professional judgment that what type of analytical procedure he applied at any situation. Then in some cases, unsophisticated predictive models may be useful. For example, budgets, forecast. Then combination of test of detail and substantive analytical procedure is more effective for obtaining the sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Then evaluation reliability of the information available. First, determine the suitability of particular substantive procedure. Then evaluation of the reliability of the information available. Sources, comparability, nature of relevance, control over the preparation of information. Independent sources are more reliable. Comparability with prior periods, with other entities, with similar industries. Nature and relevance. Nature and relevance. Related information can only comparable. Then control over the preparation of information, for example, completeness, accuracy, validity. This also an important question. Sometimes it individually asked in exam. I can give a memory trick for this. Sources, Hollywood movie source code 2019. Comparability Commando 3 2019. And nature and relevance, nature in the Eye of God 2014. And movie control movie is also in 2014. So we can remember source code, Commando 3, and in the Eye of God and control movie name, and this points maybe remember. Then development as expectation of the recorded amount. Then determine the, obviously you develop an expectation what will be the actual amount, and determine differences of actual recorded amount with the expected amount. Then objective is to be obtain the sufficient appropriate audit evidence through substantive analytical procedure. Then design and perform the it is design and perform near the year end after applying all other procedure, and it assists the auditor in forming an overall conclusion. If identify the fluctuations, inconsistencies, inquire from management, additional procedures, then investigate further. If you identify any fluctuation and inconsistencies, then you investigate further and inquire from the management and apply the additional procedures. This all about essay 520. Thank you very much.